Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 324 of Hit the Ropes Radio. My name is Shane, and I'll be joined shortly by the one and only Stokester to discuss the happenings in this week's pro wrestling landscape. Lots of good things, lots of good things. We want to focus a little bit on the MVPs, as you will. Some guys and gals who have been, tearing it up lately. Some guys and gals who have made it pretty interesting and entertaining to watch on a weekly basis, um, sometimes on a nightly basis. So we wanna focus on a couple of those MVPs tonight. In addition, we want to also talk about Mr. Diamond Dallas Page, who is the newest inductee in the WWE Hall of Fame, or he will be inducted in the Hall of Fame in about 38 days. So that will be something we discuss as well. And I also want to touch on um, some talk of factions, stables, if you want to call them that. Because I was watching that DDP video package, and DDP was like the first guy to really go after the NWO and have some success. He wasn't, one of the guys who were just getting brutally destroyed by the black and white attack. He was able to hold his own, and it got me thinking about some of the better stables that we've had in the pro wrestling landscape over time. So I'm hoping that Stokes, whenever he gets here, will be able to give his take on those factions. We'll talk about the good and the bad ones, from the NWOs to perhaps the League of Nations. That wasn't really a good one either. But we'll see. Maybe he has a different take on the topic. But if you have watched Smackdown, um, I'm still there's something still puzzling me, and it's this whole Randy Orton winning the Royal Rumble only to not want to cash in his victory to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. I'm perplexed as to what the end game is here. I thought that Orton winning would start the disillusion of this duo, and that at WrestleMania we would see them come to a head. We would see, you know, this big brawl. Orton reveals why he's joined the Wyatt family, and that was what I thought was going to happen. But apparently, there's something else at work, and I'm perplexed by this. I am still unsure why this is going on. But maybe the man who is always with the plan, Mr. D. Stokes, could shed some light on the situation, seeing as how there's not much light being shed in his background.
It's plenty of light, baby. I'm broadcasting straight from heaven, baby. The lights, the lights are shining bright. Said, look, you guys give me a hard time. I either have not enough light or too much light. So we got to roll with it, man. I'm feeling the glow here right now.
Ah, 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 ah.
Sadly, I know how you feel about Naomi. I know it's a sore spot for you. What were you speaking on though? I don't want to change subjects.
To gather why the Randy Orton refusal to fight Bray Wyatt. I don't know
Yeah.
if this was covered last week in one of the few minutes I stepped away from my computer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm perplexed by this.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I was trying to conclude just off of watching SmackDown yesterday what I think might happen. I don't know if you paid attention to some of Randy Orton's mannerisms, if you will, during some of the promos last night. You know, he was kind of staring at the title kind of deviously and then looking at Bray with a little bit of disdain. So something's going to happen. I don't think he's completely out of the mix. My initial thought was after prior to the finish of that battle royal last night was that they were going to do some type of like Wyatt triple threat at WrestleMania. Like Luke Harper was going to win, and then Randy Orton would somehow incorporate himself back in the mix, as if to make it look like, oh, it's me and Bray against Luke Harper. I also think too there's a chance I guess AJ could win too if they don't really have any concrete WrestleMania plans for AJ Styles. You can always throw him in a triple threat with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, and you're going to get something great. So those are kind of the two things that I'm playing with. It doesn't look like we're probably going to get Bray and Randy Orton one-on-one. Maybe we do, but that's kind of what I concluded with the wacky finish of that battle royal last night. Technically, Luke Harper won. If we want to be technical, AJ Styles' foot hit the ground first, but of course, all of a sudden, replay does not exist. There's
Yeah,
there's there's no footage to go back to.
I am glad you brought it up because I'm watching the show. I had it DVR'd last night. I watched it to prepare for tonight's episode, and I get to that part because you mentioned I got to talk about this finish to SmackDown, and I'm like, okay, let's see what goes on, and I clearly see AJ's foot touched the mat first. Then they go to the officials. The officials are arguing back and forth. Daniel Bryan comes out. I'm like, okay, he's gonna throw it to the replay. No, we're gonna wait till next week. So you know what's gonna happen next week, right? Next week is gonna come and they're gonna be like, somebody entered the footage truck and burned the footage. So they have no idea whatsoever who won that match. I found that to be silly. I guess I know what they were going for. They wanted to do that whole both men
Right.
feet touch the ground.
Yep. And
What was that
AJ,
Big Show?
it was a number of times. So you had Big Show and The Rock. It happened with them one
Right.
time. It happened with Bret Hart and Lex Luger back before in the Royal Rumble before WrestleMania 10. So it's happened before, but AJ screwed it up. Either he screwed it up or Luke Harper screwed it up by coming down too late. So yeah, but you're right. I think that's what they were trying to get at. They were trying to get at that simultaneous touching the ground finish where they couldn't figure it out, and then of course the match would have made more sense. But clearly, AJ Styles' foot hit the ground first, which would technically make Luke Harper the winner. I wonder, do they touch on that at all next week? I doubt it. I somehow doubt it very seriously.
Well, it would only make sense if Luke Harper did win and Randy Orton somehow gets back into. He decides, you know what? Screw this. I want my title shot, and then we have all three. Well, not three members of the Wyatt family because Luke is now by himself. But perhaps AJ and Luke, maybe they make these two guys wrestle one-on-one. Luke Harper wins. So now it's Luke versus Bray. And Randy Orton says, you know what, boss? I'm going to use my Royal Rumble win, come back in the match. So this way, I'm protecting you,
Right.
and then maybe Randy decides to screw him. Then I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's kind of where I was going with it too. Or knowing WWE, there'll be another no contest next week, and then they'll make the match a fatal four way at WrestleMania or something like that. But who knows, man? Who knows? But it was clearly a botched finish, right? I don't think that was how it was supposed to go down. And now WWE's kind of in this pickle where they have to act like we're just total idiots and replay doesn't exist. So they kill me with that, man. They kill me with that. But hey, it is what it is, right?
Right now, we talked about the SmackDown main event. Let's go to the Raw main event.
Yeah.
First of all, we have in the year 2017 of our Lord, we have the Big Show. The Big Show is in the main event of a WWE pay per view. The Big Show versus Braun Strowman. Now, I don't know who thought, you know, think about 4 or 5 months ago. Who would think that you would be looking forward to a Braun Strowman main event match against Big Show, in 2017?
I know, right? I know you said pay per view, but I know you meant Monday Night
Right,
Raw.
Monday Night
But
Raw. Sorry.
But what was crazy was, I'm at the crib, before Raw, and I don't know if it was my wife or my mother-in-law or whoever was watching. Like they had like a marathon of Chrisley Knows Best, and they advertised Big Show versus Braun Strowman at least 5 times. Like, I mean, they watched. I don't know how much of this Chrisley guy they watched, but it was like all day. And I guess he's pretty funny or whatever, but they advertised Big Show and Braun Strowman like this was a big time. Maybe I don't watch USA pre-Raw enough, but it seems like this was kind of out of the norm. They were really, really hyping it up. Hey, man, and shout out to Big Show, man. I've seen some of the Instagram posts. Dude got like 500-pound abs and getting all cut up. I guess he's getting ready for Shaq at WrestleMania or whatnot. But, shout out to Big Show getting in shape. But it was surprisingly a really good match, man. Like, Braun Strowman showed me some stuff that I didn't think he had in the repertoire. And usually when that happens, that usually brings out the best in even a guy who maybe has limited ability. I'm not dissing the Big Show, but, his best days are probably past him. But all in all, it was a pretty good match. Most of the consensus on Twitter was it was a great match until Roman Reigns' music hit, and then he screwed everything up. But
The match was over, so it was a great match then.
yeah, I agree. It was still a good match. I hate Braun Strowman's finisher, like a power slam. Like, come on, man, you guys have to come up with something little bit better than that. I think the last dude that had like a power slam finisher was like the Barbarian or somebody like that, where it was, I mean, I guess you got Mark Henry, his slam, World's Strongest Slam is power slam-ish, but maybe they got to come up with a better finisher for that guy. But all in all, it was a good match, good main event. The opposite of SmackDown. SmackDown was, up until the finish, it was okay, I guess. Some of the guys that were in the battle royal, you're like, come on, man, there's no way Mojo Rawley's going to WrestleMania. Like, who are we kidding here? But unlike the botch finish at the end of SmackDown, Raw's main event was pretty good. I really thought that they were going to get shown up by the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match, but hey, they held their own. Also, you had Sasha Banks and Charlotte for the 100th time, but they held their own. They did their thing, and hey, Braun Strowman is starting to grow on me. I was a little skeptical of him at first, but he's starting to grow on me, and looks like WWE is positioning him to be a major player. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I know you had some thoughts on his feud with Roman and
Yeah.
how they've been positioning him. I I've been a fan of his since he was, beating up people like James Ellsworth, in quick fashion. I was loving, and it was more so because of the guys he was beating up.
Yeah.
Like a couple weeks ago, that one guy ran out of the ring and ran to the back. My love affair with Braun Strowman, no homo, started more so because of those guys. But then he started growing on me. And I mean, this week, the man did a kip up
Yeah.
in the middle of the match. He did a freaking kip up. I nearly lost my crap.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy this man just did a kip
Yeah,
up.
he's huge, man. And for him to have that kind of athleticism, it was definitely impressive. My thoughts on, just real quick, I kind of had some thoughts on like kind of their Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, kind of their individual pushes, if you will. It seems like WWE, the WWE universe, or wrestling fans, whatever you want to call them, have seemingly embraced Braun Strowman's push a lot more than they embraced Roman Reigns' push. Even though, in my opinion, I don't think it's I don't think it's much difference in the terms in the sense that WWE is pushing Braun Strowman down our throats, just like they pushed Roman. I mean, oh my God, Michael Cole. I'm like, dude, you know, let go of this man. Let go of this man's junk. Because he's like, oh, when he did that kip up, he's like, oh my God, he's the greatest big man that ever lived and the monster amongst men. And I mean, geez, it was like, oh my God, like get a room, Michael Cole. Like you're like in love with this dude. But I mean, I get it. Obviously, they want to build him up, and I recall them kind of doing the same with Roman Reigns, except the fans seemingly embrace Braun Strowman's push a little bit more. I don't know if it's because he's a heel and Roman Reigns was a face. But I mean, I don't get the disdain for Roman Reigns. I think Roman Reigns is good. I think he's talented. I think he has good matches, but hey, I guess, fans like what they like. I do like the fact with Braun Strowman that they did go a little old school in the way they pushed him, in the sense of he's this monster that's wrestling all of these puny dudes. And then one week he's wrestling one guy, then two guys, then three guys. That kind of takes me back to the way they did some of the big guys back like in the 80s, when I was a young fella watching wrestling back in the day. But we'll see where it goes, man. What do you think? Does Braun Strowman win? Well, he definitely will. He will probably win a championship in 2017 for sure. But do you think he's gonna carry the Universal strap at some point this year?
I mean, with 10 months of the year left, it just seems that it's not out of the out of the realm of possibility that he would have the universal strap on his shoulder around his waist. I mean, there's a lot of time, and if we've been watching, there's been a lot of title changes going on, especially like with the women's championship. There's a lot
Ugh.
of hands, holding the titles all of a sudden. So it's pretty, it's pretty possible that he would be world champion or universal champion by year's end. And I mean, it could be WWE champion because there's going to be another draft,
Right.
so he could always end up on SmackDown.
Yeah.
Um, but you were talking about his push compared to Braun. Now, when Roman became when the Shield broke up and all of that, how soon the thing is Roman was already kind of like established because you had the Shield. They were this trio for what 2 years or whatever, and the fans already started knowing a little bit about each guy. So when he started doing his single stuff, he was already established. So I think it's a little different, comparing Braun because he hasn't been around as long as Roman Reigns was. And Braun has he even had a title shot of any kind yet?
I thought he just had a title shot. He had a title shot, and Roman Reigns cost him the belt.
All
Did
right,
he?
that
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
he had one.
that's technically a shot. And I mean, hey, like Roman Reigns, Braun was in a stable. He was in the Wyatt family for a hot second. But you know, like yeah, I guess you make a good point. Roman was established, and also too, Roman Reigns probably. Well, I guess this applies to Braun too, even though the other members of the Wyatt family are on a separate brand. But when the Shield disbanded, Roman Reigns wasn't the hottest guy in the in the stable. I think fans embraced Seth Rollins and even to a certain extent Dean Ambrose a little bit more than even Roman Reigns, because I think Seth and Dean actually started out as heels when the Shield first. Well, maybe not, because Dean, because Seth turned on Dean and Roman, so maybe just Seth made the heel turn there. But yeah, it's just interesting, man. Who fans embrace, who they don't like. But like I said, I mean, Roman Reigns to me is definitely. I mean, I understand why WWE want to push Roman Reigns. Like, he's got the look, big guy. I mean, it all makes sense. But we're in this era now where the fans don't particularly care about that. They want to make that that personal connection, if you will. I don't know what personal connection they make with Braun Strowman, but I think more so you really can't decipher with Braun Strowman, like, if the fans really embrace him or not, because he's a heel. So they're automatically going to boo him anyway. So you don't know if they're booing him because they legitimately don't like him, or just because he's a heel. But I do get a sense that the fans like the way he's being pushed.
Um, Roman does have the look, and a lot of the guys that have that look are the ones who sometimes get that feedback that the WWE might not want those type of guys to get, like John Cena. Cena gets this bum rap about can't wrestle and all this other stuff, and the guy puts on incredible matches. Roman, gets the same type of treatment, but Roman, he will put on some good matches. I think it's partly because the loudest booers or naysayers in the crowd are males,
Mm,
older males. And I think it's because they, for the majority of them, don't look like a Roman Reigns or a John Cena. So
right.
they're going to boo against who the company sees as the face, this nice guy. Roman got the long hair, the eyes. I mean, was going goo goo over Roman Reigns when he first burst on the scene. She was like, "Oh my God, look at those eyes." So it makes sense that guys would reject these pretty boys who are, getting all these woos and the hollering from the ladies because they don't look like them. They rather cheer for a Braun Strowman because, if you put yourself next to a Braun Strowman, you might get the girl before Braun does.
I don't know, man. That dude's like 6'8", muscle bound. I don't know. He's kind of weird looking, so maybe so. But I definitely get your point. The average male 30 to 40-year-old wrestling fan probably looks more like Kevin Owens than they look like Roman Reigns, or even
Right.
even a guy like Samoa Joe, for example.
Right.
So yeah, I get that. AJ Styles, even. I mean, AJ Styles isn't a huge guy. He's a smaller frame dude. Now, granted, we're probably nowhere near as athletic as he is, but I get it. Fans like a wrestler that they can relate to, or that connects with them, or that they kind of, I don't want to say see themselves in, but you know what I mean. They kind of see similarities in
Right.
them, in that character. And then you have your exceptions like your Brock Lesnar's and your Goldbergs, where people are going to just like them for the nostalgia.
And the fact that they destroy people, we like to see car wrecks. They
Right.
destroy people.
Exactly. Yep. Great point. Great point. Yeah, man. And to the real quick, you touched on the John Cena and the great match thing. Can I say this? John Cena does have great matches. And I think John Cena does get the bad rap for not being able to wrestle. Most of the time, WWE puts him in great situations, meaning he's always in a match with a really good wrestler, and he kind of just rises to the occasion. I don't know if John Cena and Braun Strowman, for example, had a wrestling match that we would be applauding a 5-star match. You know, I think, hey, John Cena and AJ Styles, they're going to tear it up. John Cena and Daniel Bryan, they're going to tear it up. So, you know, I think John Cena, more than anything else, benefits from the quality of his opponent. Not to take away from what he does, because he does bring a lot to the table. But, you know, John Cena and Shawn Michaels. Like I was at WrestleMania 23, and that match was really good. But it wasn't because of John Cena. It was because of Shawn Michaels. But
Well, you know, you also we have to remember that he's that brawler,
right,
kind of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, you know, you put him with a different style of wrestler. AJ Styles is more technical. Shawn Michaels is technical with, you know, younger Shawn was technical and high flying. You know, and Daniel Bryan is technical. CM Punk, technical with some high flying. So you mesh the styles, and it's going to look good because though it's different styles, Cena is good enough that he can work off of that other style and vice versa. You know, I don't think if you put Cena with another brawler like Braun Strowman, who is still finding his footing in the ring, you're going to get this phenomenal match.
good
You
point.
know, the Big Show Braun Strowman match, I'm not going to say it was great. It was a good match because, first of all, we're going into this match like, we're about to see Big Show and Braun Strowman. Like, this could get ugly, but then it didn't get ugly. So we're like, hey, this is pretty good. You know, when you lower your standards, and we talked about this a lot when we used to talk about TNA, you know, when you went in there expecting it to be crap. And so when it wasn't crap, you're like, oh my God, this is like filet mignon. This is great. But no, it's not filet mignon. It's just better than the crap that you thought it would be.
Yeah, it's like an Outback steak versus a filet mignon.
There you go. Instead of a Ruth Chris steak, you get an Outback steak.
There you go. There you go.
All right, now I'm hungry. All right, so you brought up the Wyatt family, which was a stable, and I wanted to talk about stables in pro wrestling because, you know, stables, they're not as prevalent anymore in the WWE. You know, you'll see it if you watch ROH or you watch New Japan or you watch, you know, CMLL. You know, you'll see like the Los Ignobles in CMLL. You'll see the Los Ignobles de Japan in the, you know, overseas. You know, ROH. There's Bullet Club. Well, Bullet Club is like all over the damn globe. But you see these stables. We don't see them so much in the WWE anymore. And I want to know what your thoughts on this, because stables was a way to like get that next guy over.
Mm-hmm.
And Braun Strowman didn't get over while he was in that stable.
True. So are we just what's your question there? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I kind of did. I didn't ask the question.
So are we just talking about, you know, my thoughts on, is the stable dead? Is that what you're asking, or?
Well, okay. Let me ask this first question, because I can just feed you a bunch of different questions. All right, in the WWE, why do you think they don't do as many stables?
It's a great question. Obviously, I think one of the big reasons now is because the rosters are thin. I think because of the brand splits, you know, you don't have the days. I mean, like, look back at the NWO, like they had like 15 dudes, and in the NWO at one time, they had like so many, and I may be exaggerating there, but they had a lot. You had, at least 10 guys at one time in the original, as they kept adding to that original incarnation of the NWO. I just think now, because of the roster split and things of that nature, and the lack of talent, they probably, feel they don't feel that they can have those kind of traditional old school stables like they used to have. Now, what we are seeing though is kind of these two-man alliances, if you will. You got the Wyatt family technically now, which is Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. You got Rusev and Jinder Mahal, which is a little, kind of a little group there. They're teasing a little bit, and I know you talked about this in some of our show prep, that maybe Triple H, Samoa Joe, and Kevin Owens are going to link up in some form or fashion. I don't know if people caught on, but Lord, I'm having a brain fart. The champ, Kevin Owens, his promo on Monday night, which is great, by the way, very good. You notice he had on a suit. Samoa Joe's been coming out in the suit. So Triple H always wears a suit. So, are they trying to start a stable there, a little alliance there? So what we see here now, I think more or less than these, 4 or 5 man stables, we're kind of seeing some of these, kind of 2-man, maybe 3-man alliances that last for a while. I guess technically is New Day a stable? Not really. I guess they're a tag team technically, but it's 3 of them. I think, I don't know if those days are gone where they won't have, where we just won't see stables ever again. I don't think that'll ever be the case, because I do think they serve a purpose, as you stated earlier. It does help to build guys up. We can look at Evolution and just how Randy Orton and Batista developed and progressed because of the rub they got from Triple H and Ric Flair. So, there are some benefits to it. The Shield, right? They were. Is that a stable? I mean, it's 3 of them. I don't know what defines a stable. Is it 2 or more guys? Or is it 3 or more guys? But I mean, that was probably the last. If we're going to talk about stables, that was probably the last stable or group that produced some main event level talent. All 3 of those guys have been world champions at this point. So they have a very good success rate. Some of the other groups we've seen, even since, say during the time of the Shield or post Shield, like the League of Nations and things of that nature, they haven't been as successful, although those guys maybe get, some mid-card titles, tag team titles, things of that nature. But I like stables. I would like to see them come back. Obviously, the Attitude Era, the 90s, that was kind of the heyday of stables, when you had, NWO and DX and the Nation of Domination, and, even some of the kind of whacker ones like Right to Censor and, what was the stable?
The oddities.
The Oddities, right. And you had, I mean, I think back then there were probably too many, and then now we got a situation where there's not enough. So I was trying to think, what was the group that had that Rey Mysterio had in WCW? What was his
the
Filthy Animals?
The Filthy Animals, right?
Yeah. So he had the Filthy Animals, and then TNA. You had Main Event Mafia, and all those different factions. But I digress.
At one point, TNA just seemed to have like everybody in a faction of some sort.
Exactly. The whole roster was in a faction.
Right. So they were kind of doing too much right there. Yeah. But, it mentioned these alliances, but these are all guys who are already so much established and over. Like, right. you see it, Samoa Joe, yeah, he hasn't been on the main roster, for what, 2-3 weeks. But he's a guy who's well known, and he's a multiple time NXT champion. So the fans already knew who he was before he got there. So there's him. There's Kevin Owens, who's the current Universal Champion. There's Triple H, who's what 12 or 13-time World Champion or whatever it is. So you have these three guys who are well established, big time superstars. They're in a group. You that's really just for ego and for dominance, which is great. It's fine. But I think with the WWE, with the fact that they have to keep leading on these guys of the past, they have to bring back a Bill Goldberg for WrestleMania. They have to sign Brock Lesnar to a 2-year or 3-year contract. They need The Rock to always pop in, ever so often. They lean on these guys of yesterday. A stable, I think, where you have one upcoming guy who can be your big name in 4 or 5 years, could be so beneficial if it's done properly. It just seems like sometimes the WWE, in their case, they do these stables and it's just out of lack of creativity. Like you get the League of Nations. You
Right.
get these guys, you just put them together, you're like, okay, well, they're all not Americans. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's as far as your thought process goes.
Right.
But then they're losing all the time. It didn't really benefit the group.
Yeah, the last time we saw a stable where, you know, everybody was a unknown really was the Nexus, right? You had a you had a whole entire group of guys that you only knew from NXT, and the way they debuted, whoever came up with that, it was something we had never seen before, right? It was great, and then it kind of fizzled out. It kind of ran its course. Then they tried to go to the new Nexus and all these different things. Now it did establish some guys. Wade Barrett had a good run. Husky Harris, aka Bray Wyatt, now is WWE champion. Daniel Bryan was in Nexus. Ryback was in Nexus. So it did introduce and establish guys. So that part was good. I don't know. I think now because NXT is such a powerful entity within itself, WWE probably would never do or couldn't do anything like that where they just gut, all the main NXT guys, bring them up and do like an invasion angle. It's been done before, but I think people I like invasion angles. Like I like seeing those, especially if it's been a while since we had one. Like when they did, I know a lot of people didn't like the whole when Shane became owner of WCW and him and Stephanie aligned with Paul Heyman and they had the whole WCW ECW thing versus WWE. Like I liked that. Like I liked seeing dudes like running out from in the stands and beating down the WWE stars. So I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again. Like I said, because NXT is so strong within itself. But the last time it was just a stable of new guys, and they were impactful was Nexus. I think though you can probably, like Evolution, have a couple new guys, a couple old guys to kind of bring some credibility and strength to the group, and then kind of let those other guys shine. Because even though Triple H was the champ, Ric Flair was kind of like the elder statesman, you still saw Batista and Randy Orton a lot. They won the tag team titles. Randy Orton became Intercontinental Champion. Then shocked the world, beat Benoit at SummerSlam, became, world champion. And then, that whole thing went down. So I think it's just a matter of whether or not the WWE wants to do it. And I think with the brand split and the rosters being so thin, I don't know that they have lot more room to do it, or a lot of room to do it at this point.
Okay. Not a problem. I'm gonna move on from there. Another thing that came on Raw and also on SmackDown was the induction, or the reveal that DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, is going to be the next inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. Let's go back to the Monday Night War days and the time when WCW was, prevalent in society and perhaps bigger than WWE. Um, were you a big DDP fan? You know,
This may shock some. I actually wasn't. I was not a huge fan of DDP, although obviously he is more. Now that WCW is a WWE property, he's definitely worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. I'm not gonna slight what he accomplished in his career and all of that. I personally wasn't a fan, but he did his thing in the ring. The diamond cutter and which a lot of people debate now. Did Randy Orton steal the RKO from Diamond Dallas Page? I mean, it is the same move, and he was kind of the originator of that. He was WCW's version of The Rock, in the sense, I know people are like, what? No, not like The Rock in the sense of how big The Rock was, but in the sense that he was the people's champion, if you will, of WCW. You always saw him in the crowd doing this little diamond signal. Kimberly, his wife, was good looking. I do recall that. And the start of the Nitro Girls, which didn't have a great run, but Diamond Dallas Page himself definitely was a top level guy during that whole Monday Night Wars run. And though I wasn't a fan, like I said, more than deserving. He was the people's champ of the WCW, and hey, now he's the king of yoga, right?
Yeah, that DDP yoga saving lives, man, saving lives. Uh he had a great run at WCW. What did you think about his WWF run? When I remember him being the Undertaker's stalker.
Yeah, yeah, that was that didn't lend to his WWF WWE success. I don't know that storyline was a fan favorite. So obviously his best days were in WCW. His WWE stuff wasn't even memorable for me, other than he was the stalker and going after Taker's wife at the time. But yeah, I mean, WWE run, thumbs down. WCW run, thumbs up. Great job. But yeah, did he win any? Did he win any major titles during the WWE run? I don't recall that he did.
Honestly, like you, I can only remember his
Yeah,
his WWF run is not memorable to me whatsoever. Darius is around. I'm pretty sure, as he is Mr. Wikipedia,
yeah.
he could quickly tell us. But for him ever really doing anything of substance in the WWE, well, let's see. He was the European champion and a tag team champion once.
Hmm.
There you go.
Boom. Okay.
Everybody was the European champion.
Yeah, everybody was the hardcore champion as well.
So I think if I was old enough in the WWE, I would have been the European or the hardcore champion. So there wasn't really anything of significance in his WWF run. But he's a man who is greatly deserving of being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and is you know his run at WCW. I mean, the guy is 60 years old. His run at WCW, he started out pretty late.
Yeah. Yep.
He started out.
Yeah, he was a late bloomer for sure. Which a lot of people. I think that's what a lot of people were impressed with about him, that he he got started so late and was able to catch on to things so well and have so much success. He also had a TNA run. I don't know if you recall that, but he did have a TNA run as well. But 3-time WCW champion, 2-time US champ, 4-time tag team champ, television champ. So I mean, he won every major title in WCW. So clearly, he is he's a WCW heavyweight, and that's kind of in my opinion, where he made his name, and clearly that is the strength of his Hall of Fame induction.
Hot Dog said he should have been the one that ended Goldberg's undefeated streak.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, can't rewrite history, but I think whether he did or didn't, both guys came out pretty good in the long run. So at this point, it doesn't matter. The show, I titled the show "The Real MVPs" because I wanted to shine a light on some guys and could be some ladies who have really been doing their stuff. It doesn't have to be this week. Could be since the start of the year. Could be this month.
Mhm.
You know we used to do our 3 stars. You know I'm just gonna let you go. Just give me a couple people. Doesn't even have to be just WWE. If you've been watching something else, let me know. Let me know if I gotta go look for somebody, or the fans. But what you got? Who's been the real MVP?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, we can go with the obvious. Braun Strowman has definitely been a real MVP thus far this year. Definitely taking advantage of the push that he is receiving, in WWE on Raw. So he would definitely be one I would consider so far a real MVP and somebody who, is going to clearly be a major player in 2017. So I'll go with first. I'll take Braun Strowman.
Okay. With somebody who we've talked a lot about on the show when we had our 3 stars. This person tends to always be up there, but Alexa Bliss. I'm watching SmackDown, and she was awesome in her speaking segment with Daniel Bryan. She comes out, she's mocking Naomi relinquishing the women's championship. She's interacting with the crowd. She's so darn cute. It is just sickening, but she does her character so darn well. It's like I'm always looking forward to an Alexa Bliss segment. It's not even so much for her wrestling, because I think her character and her mic work is far superior to her in-ring ability right now. But it's not like she's slumping it in the ring. It's
Mhm.
just that it's not at that level where you know they're both at the tippy top. But she's just awesome. I'm glad she's a champ again. Although that means Naomi is not the champion. It sucks that she's injured 40 days before WrestleMania.
Terrible, man. I felt so bad for her last night, man. I felt really bad. Like, dang, man, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, she did a great promo herself, because she's not usually the greatest of promos, but she did a
Yeah.
great promo herself.
Yeah, she did. She did a good job. And Alexa Bliss is growing on me. I know she's a favorite of yours. I know Courtney likes her a lot too. I think Darius does as well. Probably not as much as Charlotte because nobody's better than the Queen. But Alexa Bliss is growing on me, man. I think she does a decent job. I agree with you that her mic work is good, above average. She does really good on the mic. I'm just hoping that they transition away from her and Becky Lynch and kind of give someone else, throw someone else in the mix there. It'll be interesting to see what the trajectory is and what the plans are for WrestleMania with the SmackDown Women's title. We kind of see where they're going with the Raw Women's title, but it'll be interesting to see what they do on on SmackDown now that Naomi is on the shelf.
Triple
Obviously,
threat.
if you think
That's what I think.
triple threat between
Becky, Alexa, and Mickey.
and Mickey James, okay, yeah. I just think, because clearly WWE is leaning towards on the Raw side a fatal four-way, right? You're looking at, Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte, and Nia Jax.
Yeah.
So how many, multi-person fatal four-way triple threats do you do, on one show? So it'll be interesting to see. I thought maybe Mickey James, with the title, well, I guess technically the title was vacated, but we already have the two contenders who are going to compete for the title. But I thought with the title being vacated, then maybe they go with the whole Mickey ends up, turning on, or not turning on her, but Alexa maybe turning on Mickey somehow, and then they start a feud in the quest for the belt. But maybe by WrestleMania time we see that, because clearly Alexa Bliss is the champ now. They got to present a new challenger. And we'll see where they go. They don't have a whole lot of options on SmackDown. So
No, they don't. And anybody else? Because I already got another one. I got another one sticking with SmackDown. But you got anybody else?
yeah, I'll stick with Raw since you're going to stick with SmackDown, and I'll go Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's already made a huge impact in his brief time on Raw. Plus, of course, the run he had in NXT, which I guess is more towards 2016. But Samoa Joe, man, has made an impact in just a few short weeks, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. Man, it's so funny seeing all of these former TNA guys like succeeding. Like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are like at the top of the WWE right now. And I remember we would talk about these Bobby Roodes running NXT, and I was waving the Bobby Roode flag, years ago. Like, man, this guy has championship material. So it's good to see those guys thriving. And it's interesting how perspectives change, because I remember, WWE didn't want to touch any of these TNA guys. And now, you got three of them, at the top of their respective brands, within the WWE. But I'll go with Samoa Joe as my second MVP thus far in the short year thus far.
All right. Now, when these guys were, I'm gonna start with one team, but it's not even the team I'm talking about. But these guys started out in NXT, and the fans were all over them. They were great. They were, people loved them, and then they came to the main roster, and it just hasn't worked out as well as it did in NXT. And I'm talking about American Alpha. They came up, thought that we were going to see big things from them. It didn't really transpire. They're now the tag champions, but they're still not doing it for me. But you know who is? The Usos. The last couple weeks, the Usos are cutting these promos. And I mean, like, last night's promo, I'm just like, yo.
Okay, Shane. All right, listen. Last night's promo, my wife's in the kitchen, right? I'm watching, and she's like, what in the world is that? Why is he talking like that? Why is he? You either loved it or you hated it. It was so bizarre that it was like kind of good. Like, I just couldn't, I couldn't put my fingers on it, because I was like, okay, he's kind of like borderline like yelling. And they were kind of talking all crazy, you know why you had nightmare, you know why you can't sleep at night. I'm like, dude, like they like drink before they came out for the promo, but I get what you're saying, man. The Usos do their thing, man. They're good, and I like American Alpha too. But I think they kind of suffer from kind of this thing that the WWE does, like we were talking about Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman to an extent, where they're kind of forcing them down our throats a little bit, um, you know, and not just letting them kind of develop organically. But I like American Alpha. I think they're, to me, I told I was talking to Courtney and I said they remind me a lot of the world's greatest tag team with the singlets and just their abilities and things. They're kind of like the world's greatest team 2.0. But they're okay. But yeah, I definitely can see why you would give some love to the Usos and them screaming on their promos.
Yeah, I mean, tag team division on SmackDown is not the greatest right now.
Yeah.
It's like, you had the Beauty and Man Beast era, and once that finished, things kind of just been going south. But here are the Usos, and I think part of it is because I'm just so darn glad that I'm not seeing the Usos, who are bad guys, and they're coming out and being all happy looking and doing their haka dance, or however it's pronounced. You know, I thought that they should have lost that dance a long time ago and changed up their characters, and I'm glad they are. And they just seem so much more comfortable doing what they're doing. And yeah, you said it was something that you're either gonna love or hate. But I was just like loving it because one is over there just like a freaking hype man, just like, yeah, I mean, the back of your neck, just doing that, repeating the last couple words of the other one. I'm just like, I was laughing my behind off.
Yeah, they were. It was like they got like some adrenaline shots before they came out because they were amped. My wife was like, "Really? What is that? Who is that?" So yeah, it was a beautiful disaster that promo was last night. But I hear you, man. Usos doing their thing.
I'm looking forward to this feud because this feud should have been the big feud a couple months ago between these two teams. Give me one more.
All right, so let me see. Uh MVP so far in 2017. Oh, I'll go Bray Wyatt, man. I've always liked Bray Wyatt. I thought the gimmick was getting a little stale for time. It seems like adding Randy Orton kind of refreshed things some. It's like, because he really didn't deviate from what he used to do that much. I guess he's not as dark. I mean, he's still dark, but he's not as dark. And I think Randy Orton has kind of brought a freshness to the whole Wyatt family thing. I definitely like the fact that they're giving him a chance as the champ. He's been paying his dues for some time. So I like what Bray Wyatt is doing. I don't know if he keeps the title after WrestleMania. I actually hope that he does. And sidebar, totally has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm praying that they let Kevin Owens keep the title and beat Goldberg at Fastlane and go on to face Jericho at Mania for the title. But I digress. I'll go back to Bray Wyatt. He's probably my third MVP so far. So I'll give some love on the SmackDown side to Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they do let Kevin hold that title, and I'm got my fingers crossed that Brock Lesnar comes out and causes
Yeah.
Goldberg to lose. That's what I'm hoping for right now.
Yeah, it's going to be
Um,
one or two things. Brock causes Goldberg to lose, or Jericho comes back and causes Kevin Owens to lose. So we kind of everybody have their fingers crossed for the former and not the latter. So
right, and one more for me. I'm just to try to be a little diplomatic. I'm gonna go TNA, and I'm gonna say Eli Drake
Who?
because
Who? Sorry, go
Eli
ahead.
Drake. Yeah, that is
I actually have heard of him. So okay, go ahead.
not because this is a guy who, do you remember The Rock's reality show a couple years ago? Do you remember
The
that?
Rock, the wrestler, he had a reality show.
He had well, he was like the host, and there were like these regular people. It was something like the hero, the great
Oh
hero,
yes,
or something
yes,
like
I do.
that.
Yep, I remember that. Yep, I do.
Eli Drake was a guy who was on that show. And when I see Eli Drake, all I can think is The Miz on The Real World. But Eli wasn't like as, over the top with it as The Miz was back then when he was on The Real World, because The Miz on The Real World was, this character, I want to be a wrestler, this, beating up everybody in the house and all of that. Eli Drake was just a guy who was trying to win this competition, and come to find out that he started doing wrestling and all of that, and he's succeeding, and his character is really entertaining. He's really good on a mic. He's good in the ring. So he keeps me entertained on TNA Thursday nights when I DVR the show and things. Hot Dog is saying his MVP is Neville, who's the king of the
That's
cruiserweights.
a good one. That's a good one.
I'm still not watching 205 live, but
Yeah, yeah. It's I like Jack Gallagher. I like him. I like his little gentleman gimmick. They got some guys, man. They got some guys that can wrestle. I like the new guy that just debuted who beat Brian Kendrick on Raw. I can't think of his name.
Akira Tozawa.
Yes, Tozawa. Yep, I like him. He was pretty good. Um, I like Tony Nese from the jump. I like Cedric Alexander. Those guys just need a little more personality. So it's starting to grow on me. And then once they throw Austin Aries in the mix, then you got a few guys who actually has some personality. And then we can kind of see it take off from there. But 205 Live, I don't watch it, but I do like that I see on Raw. So
Well, better you than me. I there's far too many things I can't keep up, but whatever. Anyway, we're coming to the end of episode 324.
whew, 324.
Um,
And wait a minute, on Sunday, Shane, I don't know if you were aware of this. I don't know if you were getting ready to mention this. If I was stealing your thunder, I apologize. But HTR celebrated a milestone. We established what 2009 was it when we established, and it was February 19th, 2009 was the first HTR show. So we celebrated. I know we were on hiatus for a little while, but we've been in business in some form or fashion for 8 years. So we owe that to a lot of people who've listened over the years and downloaded podcasts and videos and such. So shouts out to you guys. Thank you guys. And hey, it's been a great ride with you gents.
um, I've been in a long freaking relationship with HTR. Good lord.
Yeah, I'm like, man, wait a minute. I'm married 10 years. This year it'll be 10 years. So I was like 2 years in when HTR started. It's like getting married and then having a baby. HTR comes along, and heck, HTR is older than one of my kids. So there you go. Who can forget the infamous show where like my middle daughter, my wife went into labor in the middle of the show. I don't know if you guys remember that. I had to cut out and leave because she was getting ready to have a baby. So and now here we are again. I just had a baby 4 weeks ago almost. So Yeah, something about HTR babies. No more babies, thank God. But
The longer the show stays on the air, the more babies you're gonna
there
get.
are no more children coming out of the Stokes household. I can guarantee you that, my friend.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please, send us some birthday love. You want to mail us some cake and all this other stuff. That is fine. Send, I like cash. Send us some cash. However, but HTR is 8 years old. Um, thank you for sticking with us. Make sure you check out the podcast on Google Play, iTunes, Podmatic, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast episodes. We will be back next week. And then we'll also have a post show for WWE Fastlane as we continue our road to WrestleMania. For Demetrius Stokes, this is Shane Howard. We thank you. Have a wonderful night. Peace.
Peace.